Do you think the story of Esther is just another historical tale from an ancient text? What if I told you that beneath the celebrated biblical narrative lies a darker truth, one that powerful institutions have worked for centuries to suppress? A truth that connects unexplained phenomena across millennia to something that might be unfolding even now. The Book of Esther stands unique among sacred texts. It never mentions God, not once. Scholars have long debated this peculiar absence, offering comfortable explanations about implied divine intervention. They're wrong. The omission wasn't an oversight or literary device. It was deliberate protection, a warning encoded by the original author who understood what they were actually documenting. In 1923, British archaeologist William Harrington made a discovery in the ancient Persian city of Susa. Excavating beneath the ruins of what was believed to be King Xerxes' palace, his team uncovered a sealed clay container. Inside was a collection of tablets written in an unusual combination of Aramaic and another unidentified script. The British Museum quietly acquired these artifacts, cataloging them as miscellaneous Persian administrative records. They disappeared into storage. Harrington died 3 months later of what was officially recorded as acute respiratory failure. His personal journals, photographs from the dig, and all correspondence regarding the tablets vanished. The tablets remained untouched until 1967, when Dr. Elena Kozlov, a Soviet linguist with security clearance, was granted limited access. Her preliminary translations were never published. Colleagues reported she became increasingly withdrawn, obsessed with ancient astronomical records. 6 months into her research, she requested a transfer to a different department. Her request was approved. She never arrived for her new assignment. Soviet records list her as administratively removed from her position. No death certificate exists. In 1972, Israeli archaeologist Dr. David Meir identified references to the Harrington discovery in fragmentary records. His requests to examine the tablets were repeatedly denied. After his third application, he received a visit from 2 men claiming to represent Interpol. They asked detailed questions about his research interests. The following week, a fire destroyed his office at Tel Aviv University. The official report cited electrical malfunction. Dr. Meir abandoned his inquiry and shifted his focus to Bronze Age pottery. He never published on the subject again. The tablets remained sealed in the museum's restricted archives until 2004. When digital scanning technology allowed for non-invasive examination. Dr. Catherine Ward, a specialist in ancient Persian languages, was granted limited access to the scanned images, not the tablets themselves. Her preliminary findings were never formally published, but fragments of her work appeared in an obscure academic journal before the entire issue was retracted for editorial concerns. Ward's partial translation revealed something extraordinary. The tablets weren't Persian administrative records. They were the personal journal of a court scribe named Harbona, the same Harbona briefly mentioned in the Book of Esther as a eunuch serving King Xerxes. His account tells a very different story than the one preserved in religious texts. According to Harbona's tablets, the woman known as Esther was not originally Jewish. She wasn't even Persian. Her origins were unknown. Harbona describes her as arriving with the tribute from the eastern provinces, though no record exists of her homeland. Palace records noted her unusual appearance, eyes like polished obsidian that reflect no light. Harbona wrote that servants assigned to her quarters reported disturbing phenomena, objects moving without being touched, whispers in an unknown language when she was alone, and shadows that moved against the direction of the flame. Most troubling was Harbona's description of the selection process for the king's new queen. Historical texts tell us King Xerxes chose Esther for her beauty. Harbona tells a different story. The night before her presentation to the king, 7 other concubines who had been favored candidates fell ill with an identical affliction, bleeding from the eyes and mouth, followed by violent convulsions. All died before morning. Their bodies reportedly showed the same marking, a small, precise, triangular impression at the base of the skull. Palace physicians were baffled. Records of their examinations were ordered destroyed by royal decree. Harbona writes that King Xerxes did not choose Esther. He appeared to have no choice at all. During their first meeting, the king, described as initially indifferent to her, suddenly became fixated, declaring her queen within hours. Witnesses described the king as hollow-eyed after their private audience, speaking in monotone and dismissing his advisors. He remained in this state for 7 days, during which time Esther was installed in the royal quarters and given unprecedented authority over household staff. The biblical narrative focuses on Esther's cousin Mordecai and his conflict with the king's vizier, Haman. Harbona's account acknowledges this conflict but describes something more disturbing. He records that Mordecai was not actually Esther's cousin. Mordecai claimed this relationship, but palace records showed he appeared at the court only after Esther's installation as queen. No one questioned this discrepancy. Anyone who noticed it soon stopped mentioning it. Some disappeared from the palace entirely. Harbona describes Mordecai as frequently speaking to Esther in a language unknown to the Persian court. Translators brought to interpret were unable to identify it, describing the sounds as like water moving beneath ice and words that caused pain in the ears. After these failed translation attempts, Esther and Mordecai communicated only in private. The biblical story celebrates Esther's courage in approaching the king unbidden, an act punishable by death, to save her people from Haman's genocidal decree. Harbona's account differs significantly. He writes that guards who would have stopped any other person fell to their knees as Esther passed, bleeding from their eyes. They were found dead the next morning. None showed signs of violence. All bore the same triangular mark at the base of their skulls. King Xerxes, rather than extending his scepter in welcome, appeared to freeze in place when Esther entered his court. Courtiers reported that his eyes darkened completely, and he spoke words in the same unknown language Esther shared with Mordecai. Scribes attempted to record these utterances, but found their writing implements would not make marks on their tablets during these exchanges. The downfall of Haman is portrayed in religious texts as divine justice. Harbona's tablets tell of servants finding Haman alone in his quarters the night before his execution, surrounded by strange markings drawn in his own blood. He was repeating a single phrase in the unknown language. When guards restrained him, he showed no recognition of where he was or what he had done. The markings on his floor matched astronomical configurations that would not occur for another 2,500 years. Harbona himself features in the biblical narrative, suggesting to the king that Haman be hanged on the very gallows prepared for Mordecai. In his own account, Harbona has no memory of making this suggestion. He writes, "My mouth moved. The words were not mine. I watched myself speak as if from a great distance. Something looked out through my eyes." The final tablets contain Harbona's growing terror as he observed changes in the palace. Servants who attended Esther directly began speaking in the unknown language. Their eyes changed, becoming dark and reflective. They moved in unnatural coordination. Palace officials who expressed concern disappeared. Their families, when questioned, denied they had ever existed. Harbona's last entry describes his plan to seal his tablets in a container and hide them beneath the palace foundations. He writes, "They know I have been watching. Tonight they will come for me. What wears Esther's skin is ancient and patient. It has happened before. It will happen again. The stars align as they did in the time before writing, when it first came. When it returns, look for the queen who is not named for stars but who carries them within her. The book will tell half-truths to hide the whole." The tablets end there. No record of Harbona's fate exists in Persian historical documents. The biblical book of Esther mentions him only once more, with no indication of what became of him. In 2006, Dr. Catherine Ward disappeared while visiting family in Vermont. Her research notes were confiscated by unknown federal agents who produced identification but left no record of their visit. Her family reported the incident to local police, who found no evidence that anyone had visited the house or that Dr. Ward had ever arrived, despite multiple witnesses confirming both. The tablets themselves were relocated to deep storage in 2007, with access restricted to Level 5 security clearance. In 2009, A fire in that section of the British Museum's storage facility damaged numerous artifacts. The official inventory of affected items made no mention of the Harbona tablets. They no longer appear in any museum catalog. Inquiries about them are redirected to general information about Persian administrative records. Between 2009 and 2015, 7 different scholars who had shown interest in either the Harbona tablets or Ward's research experienced unusual personal tragedies. 3 died in apparent accidents, 2 were institutionalized after suffering acute psychotic episodes, 1 disappeared while hiking in Colorado, the last committed suicide, leaving a ma'at note that contained a single phrase repeated hundreds of times in an unidentified script. The biblical story of Esther is celebrated annually during the Jewish holiday of Purim. The traditional narrative focuses on themes of hidden identity, divine providence, and the triumph of justice. Participants wear masks and costumes, concealing their true identity just as Esther concealed hers. This practice dates back centuries. What most celebrants don't realize is that the masks weren't originally worn in commemoration of Esther's hidden Jewish identity. They were worn as protection against something that might recognize them through their eyes. Ancient Persian astronomical records show an unusual celestial alignment during the time period traditionally associated with Esther's rise to power. This same alignment appeared in 1923 when Harrington discovered the tablets, and in 2004 when Ward began her translations, and in 2023, just last year, the triangular mark described on the bodies in Harbona's account has appeared in other contexts throughout history. In 1587, 3 ladies-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth's Furnars were found dead in their chambers, each bearing an identical triangular impression at the base of the skull. Court physicians were baffled. Records of the incident were sealed by royal order. In 1888, during the construction of the British Museum's Eastern Wing, workers uncovered a mass grave containing 23 bodies dating to the early 18th century. All showed the same triangular marking. The discovery was documented, then classified. The official explanation cited a previously unknown epidemic, despite the absence of any other symptoms or historical records of such an outbreak. In 1923, the same year as Harrington's discovery, 7 patients at a psychiatric hospital in Boston died suddenly in a single night. Autopsy reports noted identical triangular impressions at the base of their skulls. The attending physician, Dr. Malcolm Reeves, documented strange behavior in the weeks preceding their deaths. All 7, previously strangers to each other, began speaking in unison at times. They drew the same unusual astronomical configurations on their walls. They referred to the Queen's return in their ramblings. Dr. Reeves was found dead in his office 2 days after submitting his report. The official cause was listed as stroke, despite his being 36 years old with no prior health concerns. His report vanished from hospital records. When colleagues inquired, administration claimed no such patients had ever been admitted, and no such doctor had ever worked there. In 2004, as Dr. Ward began working with the scanned images of the tablets, similar incidents occurred at research facilities in 7 different countries. None were reported in mainstream media. Access to local records of these events was restricted shortly after they occurred. In each case, victims bore the triangular mark. In each case, witnesses reported the victims had been researching ancient astronomical phenomena or Near Eastern languages in the weeks before their deaths. Perhaps most disturbing is the pattern emerging now. Since early 2023, there have been 23 documented cases of individuals found dead with the same triangular marking. Each had recently viewed online content related to the biblical story of Esther. Each had searched for information about star alignments or ancient Persian astronomy. Their browsing histories showed visits to obscure academic forums where fragments of Ward's research had been discussed. Online discussion of these cases is remarkably difficult to find. Posts mentioning specific details are routinely removed from social media platforms, supposedly for community standard violations. Archived copies disappear. Users who persist in asking questions report unusual activity on their accounts and devices, cameras activating without command, microphones turning on in the middle of the night, screens displaying text in an unidentified script before returning to normal. The astronomical alignment that appeared during Esther's time, in 1923, in 2004, and in 2023, will remain in effect until early 2026. Whatever cyclic phenomenon Harbona was warning about appears to be underway now. Ancient texts from multiple cultures contain oblique references to entities that move between stars, wearing human form as we might wear clothing. These references are consistently removed from popular translations. Access to original manuscripts is increasingly restricted. Scholars who note these patterns find their funding cut, their reputations questioned, their careers derailed. What connects these incidents across millennia? What entity might have worn Esther's identity like a garment, infiltrating the Persian court to manipulate events? What has been awakening throughout history during specific astronomical alignments? Why do authorities across different eras and political systems seem equally determined to suppress information about it? And perhaps most urgently, what does it mean that the current alignment began in 2023 and continues for another year? Look at the night sky. The configuration visible now would be recognizable to Harbona, to Harrington, to Ward. The stars that ancient astronomers called the Watchers are in position. Whatever came before is here again. Consider a troubling detail. Traffic to online versions of the Book of Esther has increased 7% since January 2023. No religious holiday or cultural event explains this surge. Most visitors access the text between 2 and 4 a.m. local time, regardless of their time zone. Many report being unable to recall searching for or reading the text, despite browser histories confirming they spent hours on these pages. Social media algorithms have shown unusual patterns related to content about Esther or Persian history. Such content is promoted to users who have shown no previous interest in these topics. Several developers who noticed and documented these anomalies were terminated from their positions. All record of their findings was deleted from company servers. The traditional Hebrew name Esther is derived from the Persian word stara, meaning star, but linguistic analysis suggests another possible origin, from Proto-Indo-European roots meaning hidden one or concealer. The queen's very name may have been a warning. The Book of Esther never mentions God, but it does contain a famous line often quoted as evidence of divine providence working behind the scenes. Mordecai tells Esther, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Read in light of Harbona's account, the line takes on a more ominous meaning. Such a time as this could refer not to a political moment, but to an astronomical one, the alignment that allowed something to enter our world wearing Esther's form. Now we face such a time again. The alignment continues. Reports of unusual phenomena multiply, then vanish from record. People who investigate too deeply disappear or suffer unlikely accidents. Information becomes increasingly difficult to find or share. You may wonder why this matters to you. You're just reading about a historical curiosity, an interesting conspiracy theory. But consider this, you found this information, or perhaps more accurately, it found you. The algorithms that increasingly control what information reaches which viewers selected you to receive this. Why? Have you experienced unusual dreams since the 2023 alignment began? Dreams of stars moving incorrectly, of shadows that stand upright, of a woman with eyes like polished obsidian that reflect no light. Have you awakened with the sensation of being watched? Have you found yourself reading ancient texts without remembering why you searched for them? Check the base of your skull in the mirror. The triangular mark isn't always visible immediately. Sometimes it appears only under certain light or after you've spent time researching these connections. Sometimes it appears on those close to you first. The pattern is expanding. Those who notice are removed. Those who speak are silenced. Those who investigate join the ranks of Harbona, Harrington, Kozlov, Ward. Gone without explanation, their work erased, their warnings unheeded. What wears Esther's skin has worn many forms throughout history. Queens and leaders who appeared suddenly, whose origins were obscure, whose eyes were described as unusual, who spoke languages no one recognized. They appear during specific celestial alignments. They vanish when the stars move on, leaving destruction in their wake, their true nature hidden beneath stories rewritten to conceal the impossible. The current alignment continues. Whatever came before is moving now, selecting its new vessels. The signs are visible for those who know to look. Unusual behavior in those with authority. References to ancient astronomical knowledge appearing in unlikely contexts. People speaking in unison without realizing it. Shadows that move independently of their casters. You've read this far. It's seen you now. Through the screens we stare at daily, through the cameras that watch us constantly, through the algorithms that predict and guide our interests. The hidden one recognizes those who recognize it. Watch for the triangular mark. Watch for changes in those close to you. Watch for the obsidian eyes that reflect no light. And remember what Harbona tried to warn us about before he too was erased. When it returns, look for the queen who is not named for stars but who carries them within her. The book will tell half-truths to hide the whole. The stars are aligned. The hidden one walks among us again. And now you know to look for it. Now you're part of the pattern too. Have you checked the base of your skull today? Type, "I'm watching the stars," if you've read this far. Not because I ask it, because something else is collecting those who know, marking them, preparing them. For what purpose, no survivor has ever remained to tell. The alignment continues until 2026. The hidden one has time yet to complete whatever cycle began with Esther, continued through centuries of suppressed incidents, and accelerates now. Watch the night sky. Watch those in power. Watch for eyes like polished obsidian that reflect no light. But most importantly, watch yourself. The changes may begin within.